a whole breakdown, whole page full of notes, and 41 hours in the game itself. Like I said, all sagas done, just a few tiny side quests that just weren't worth wasting my effort. So Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a 40 gigabyte game on the Xbox One X. Quite large, to be fair, you know, especially for the quality that they had in the game itself. There are 4 editions. You got the standard edition for $49.99, the deluxe edition for $64.99, and then the ultimate edition for $74.99. But they also did a statue, like a Goku statue edition itself, with him flying on Nimbus. And if you manage to grab that, then awesome, because obviously if you are a massive fan of Dragon Ball Z, then I guess, you know, you probably want to go for the whole shebang and go for the full works. So we're going to break this game down exactly the same way we break every other game down, in the same formula, with the same context, so it's fair as possible. So the very first thing that we're going to look into, which is the first thing that I always look into, is the choice of music used, because I feel a great soundtrack can pretty much make or break video games nowadays. And the music that they pretty much used in the game was 100% spot on, and I cannot fault it whatsoever. It was a lot of the Japanese side soundtrack, because obviously there were different versions of music that they used in the anime. The Americans had a different soundtrack to the Japanese, and you can actually tell the difference, especially when I grew up as a kid. The music that they used on the Cartoon Network version of Dragon Ball Z was completely different to the soundtrack that they used in the other variations. So with what they had, it worked really, really, really well, and I absolutely loved what they did with it, so I can't fault the soundtrack at all. Now, audio and audio effects and voice acting, this is something that we can talk a little bit about. The audio effects did glitch every now and again. It wasn't game breaking, it wasn't something major, but it did break every now and again, and you could hear it throughout the gameplay itself. The voice acting, I'd say more than half of the team was voiced by the original voice actors, which I love. I love when the original voice actors can take the role of the characters in the game itself. There were some characters that were not voiced by their original voice actor, like I said, like Goten, for example. He had a really bad voice actor. It was really bad. So more than half of the team have their original voice actors, which is great. And some of the characters don't, unfortunately, have them. I guess they couldn't maybe they couldn't get in contact with the people that wanted to do the voice acting. Maybe they weren't available because they were working on other projects, or maybe they just didn't want to do it because of reasons. We won't ever know that unless we talk to them directly. But I was satisfied with the majority of the voice acting, and it worked perfectly fine for me, and I was happy with it. The audio glitching, I'm guessing that they can just roll down an update and get that patched, because it's not a game breaker, but you know, like I said, it needs to be fixed. And sometimes the conversations that you have with characters, or during the cutscene animations, they get cut off as they're talking, and that can just be simply patched. I guess again, wouldn't take too long. Problem solved. Graphics, texturing, and weather effects. Now, the graphics that they used in this game, it worked extremely well. I was extremely happy with it. It looked beautiful. The game itself is so beautifully well designed, and I cannot fault it in any way. I was even extremely satisfied with the key wave abilities that you can see, the way that they designed the coloring and the maneuverability of the blasts. I can't fault it one bit. In my opinion, this is probably the best looking Dragon Ball Z game they have ever made, but that doesn't mean that the game's going to get a full scoring because of it. I'm just making a note that this game looks absolutely exceptional, and during some of the cutscenes as well, the energy wave attacks and the effects that they used, the graphics were absolutely mesmerizing, and I was way satisfied with it. So I've got to give them preps to putting so much effort into the design of the spells and the characters and stuff like that, because I think they've done a fantastic job. Weather effects, we didn't really have a lot of weather used in this game whatsoever. You know, there wasn't rain, thunder, and lightning, but I mean, that itself could have been pretty cool, especially in the open world. You do visit some of the like dusty type areas, the desert stormy areas, and you also get to explore the mountains where there's a bit of snow, but there wasn't any in-game proper weather effects. So there's no point judging this game based on that and removing any points, because it doesn't really apply in my opinion. Glitches and bugs. The camera is finicky as hell in this game, and it can become your worst enemy. It really can. You find that during some of the fights that the camera may get stuck behind a tree, or your character may get pushed directly into the ground too much and the camera angle's right behind him, and it's just not a optimized camera angle during certain points of it. But what I do have to say is that during certain boss spell abilities, where the boss does an amazing AoE blast in a huge area, the camera angle pans in different styles, and that works very, very well because it does help you evade, but it can be a little bit clumsy at times. So that is going to be a bit tricky to fix with an update, but I'm hoping that they can do something to help with the camera moves at the right pan, in case characters get stuck in the wall, or in case you're putting an enemy into the wall and it doesn't screw you over. But I found on numerous occasions that the camera can be a bit tricky and can cause some complications during the combat, where you're in a wall and you can't see what's going on, and you got all hell breaking loose, and it's just, camera angles a little bit meh. The gameplay and the mechanics. Gameplay is very simplified. I mean, it's pretty much if you want it to be, it's pretty much a one button game. The B button. Because when you're in melee combat with all the enemies in this game, all you're doing is hammering B. That's all you're doing. Just smack, 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 smacks. And then you can obviously do your dashing ability, which is another button, but then you're back to smashing that B button. You're going to be hammering this B button so hard, you may wear out your controller. And I'm not kidding either. It's B, 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 all the way through, unless you're going to do your spell abilities, and then B, 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 dash, 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 B, 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 again and again, and you're just going to keep using it. So this game is quite simplified with the combat. It isn't like the other Dragon Ball Z fighter games where, you've got light punch being X, heavy punch being Y, light kick being B, or something like that. It's not like a Street Fighter game where every button controls an element of the body. It's just full combat is B only. So you can go Hambo like Rambo with the B button and deal some massive damage with your punch, your kicks, your heads, or your barging abilities, and all you're doing is just using B. So with that in mind, does it reduce points off the review because they've simplified the combat? Slightly, yes and no. They have made it simple because probably with new people coming into this game series, they just wanted to make the combat as easy as they possibly can do. And with that, they have achieved that. But it does get really, really repetitive really quickly. And that causes it to get a little bit boring after a while, because you're doing the same things over and over and over again. Now, obviously, every character has their own combat technique, so the punching and kicking is different with each character. But when you're forced to use characters quite a lot of the times, i.e. Goku, Gohan, or Piccolo, you start seeing the constant repetitiveness of all their moveset, and it doesn't really change unless your character grows up and the combat style changes. You're going to see the same fighting technique over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it does get repetitive quickly as well. I don't see how they can change that. I really can't, unless they do a complete remapping of the character techniques, which I don't think they're going to do. It's just unfortunate that, like I said, it will get repetitive very quickly with the combat itself, unless you're switching between characters and you can free up that sort of a margin and use different characters over the time and not get as bored as quickly. But I felt I got a little bit bored as I went through the game because I was just doing the same thing over and over again. Hammering the B button, watching the same technique styles, and then doing a Kamehameha blast or a Big Bang attack or a Final Flash or a special beam cannon. It was pretty much just the same thing on rinse and repeat throughout the whole thing. Now this is where the game loses the majority of its marks. The game got boring fast outside of the story missions. I'm talking about all the side missions that the game chucked at you, because you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. I'm sorry, but this is a big deal breaker for me. Your side missions were so boring that I wanted to stop playing the game a lot of the time. The majority of the time you run to talk to someone and it's, oh, can you please go gather me some ingredients? Or you run up to someone, oh, can you please fight these generic robots that you have fought so many times throughout the game? The fillers were not needed in this game. In my opinion, you could have removed them and it actually would have catered to the game much better. They want you to sink so much time into farming, it will get boring really quickly. Either gathering materials, fighting the same enemies that you've done over and over, or just training with someone that you've already fought plenty of times just to prove you're stronger than them. And that's it. And the rewards are either the experience, some items, or the emblems that you need to put on your champion emblem board. And we'll talk about that later on. We'll talk about that throughout the review itself. But I'm sorry, you bored me in this game. Outside of the story, I was bored because I knew what I had to do. Go speak to this person, talk to them, do one of their farming missions. Go speak to this person, learn how to drive a car around, which is absolutely pointless because I can fly. Or the little ped walk or whatever it is. And it's just, it bored the hell out of me, man. I even had to do some of it off stream because I didn't want to bore you guys during the review. But I do have to talk about it because, in my opinion, this is something that's going to be heavily impacting the scoring of this game. You will find yourself getting really bored really quick. If you're not doing something story related, you're going to get bored. But then again, even in the story missions, they chuck the same spawned enemies at you all the time, and it gets really boring fast. I need a drink. Now, I'm not saying that the mechanics behind those side missions, they work. The driving, it works, The mechanical little thing that you create, it works. It's unnecessary and it's boring. And with this game being Goku's story arc throughout the lore of Dragon Ball Z, I wanted this game to be the key thing that encourages people to go watch the anime. I really did. I wanted this to be the key game that will turn a new audience from this game to the anime series, and that would have been absolutely fantastic. And we'll talk a little bit more about that again further into the review. Any game customization and stats building. There is no character customizing. The game, obviously, it's not like the other Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse games where you get to create your own hero. You get to completely customize how they look. You get to customize what the clothing that they can wear, the coloring, the abilities, and stuff like that. That's not the case because this is true to the lore of Dragon Ball Z. The characters wore the clothing that they needed at that time during the anime series, and they all used those abilities that they all had as well. You have a really good ability board that each character has, and you can work through by collecting the orbs that you've done throughout the game. You can power up their abilities, like you can increase the strength of the Kamehameha wave or Destructo disc. And I thought they did a very good job with that sort of trait system. I feel it works quite well within the game itself, and it encourages the player to play a little bit more to reach a certain level, just so they can level up their traits even faster. But with that in mind, the more grinding that you pretty much did, the easier the story became, to the point where you breeze through the story really, really quickly. I found at the point that I got to the Android Saga, because I've done so much grinding, I was speed killing all the bosses really, really, really quickly. My traits were quite high. My skill powers were quite high. My level was good enough just to beat the living mercy out of the bosses, and it was fantastic. If you want a challenge, I would say don't do some of the side quests, because the side quests give you a ridiculous amount of experience, and you level up pretty fast. But at the same time, there are side quests that can get missed if you don't do it within a certain time frame in the lore of what saga you're on. So a questline may be only completable on the Namek saga, and if you get past that, you can't do it. And that really sucks, because sometimes the game doesn't warn you about that. You yourself have to either know about it, or you've got to summon Shinron to bring in a certain foe or do something within that time frame so it's not missed. And that's a bit of a kick in the nuts for me. That really is. I feel a game should always warn you, and a game should tell you, oh, if you don't do this, you're going to miss this. So, why not do it right now so you don't miss it? It tells you in text form, but I was flying towards one of the side missions, and because the story mission was close to it, it pulled me into the story mission when I didn't want to get pulled in. And we ended up then missing that side quest because the game automatically chucked us into the story. And that sucked. That actually angered me quite a lot, because up until that point, I had done all the side missions. And because of that, we actually missed it. Now, I could have just loaded back, but I just didn't want to. I just wanted to see how the game was going to play out. And I didn't realize that after that story mission was done, it was too late. That side quest had been voided off because you've gone past the point. The stat building, I think, works very well in the game. For each individual character, they have their own abilities that all need powering up and all need leveling up, and that makes sense, because obviously Gohan's abilities are all different from Piccolo's, and you need to work on that sort of a trait system and level them all up and make them stronger. You've also got training rooms that can give your characters even more abilities, some giving you a penalty though at your health going down too quickly, or your key bar going down too fast. So if you transform to Super Saiyan 3, for example, your key bar goes down very, very, very quickly if you have certain traits enabled. Story. Now this this is where I'm going to get a little bit sour. As I said earlier on, I felt this was the game to lure people into the anime. And by that, what I really, really wanted was a Dragon Ball Z game that was so close to the anime, it was like you're watching it at the same time. Or close enough. And I can promise you now, the story does in fact follow the anime, but it doesn't follow it correctly a lot of the times. To the point where your characters sometimes say something that they never said in the anime, or a certain scene would happen that never happened in the anime, and I really don't like that. I really, 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 really don't like that. And I've got examples written down, and we'll talk about them as we go through the notes itself. But I am pretty disappointed that they didn't stick to the scripting of the anime as close as possible. And there was no need to really make up certain things. It kind of irritated me, because even you guys noticed throughout the gameplay, you're like, wait, that never happened in the anime. Why have they stuck that in there? They either stuck it in there for filler reasons, or God knows, But you have a amazing story lore. All you had to do was make that into a game. You didn't have to deviate from it. If there were reasons for deviating, I would like to know. I really would. I would like to know why they changed it. But I feel they should have stuck to the story script. And if possible, chuck in some of the anime scenes as well. Because the anime is probably one of the best cartoon anime I've ever watched, alongside Sword Art Online and some others. But Dragon Ball Z is probably one that will stick with me until I die. I feel Dragon Ball Z is phenomenal. It really is. It's so well written all the way through from the Saiyan saga to the Buu saga. And it has so much emotion in it that emotion is going to get missed by generations, kids nowadays. It is, unless they watch it themselves. They're not gonna see it. They're not gonna notice it, and they're not gonna know about it. So a great thing that they could have done with this game is during certain emotional scenes, come out from the game and show that scene in the anime. I think that would have been an amazing thing to do, to transition from game to anime, and then from anime back to the game. Honest to God, if they would have done that, this game could have been contender of the year for me, straight off the bat, because the emotion in those scenes make or break the scene. And Dragon Ball Z never failed at showing you raw emotion, from when a certain Saiyan transformed for the first time, from when a certain father was taken away too soon, from when a certain father wanted to protect his own child, you know? I'm not going to dive heavily into the spoilers of the anime, and I'm trying my best not to talk about it too much, because if you are interested in watching the anime, then I highly, highly recommend that you do. Honest to God, over everything else, make plans for it. The anime is phenomenal, and I would highly recommend not touching this game until you've watched it. Don't go anywhere near this game, because this game has a terrible way of spoiling it. They not only show you scenes about what's to happen, not one episode in front, they show you the whole saga in cutscenes about what's going to happen, who's going to appear, what they're going to do, and it's really badly done. It irritated me so much that this game spoiled itself through not only the narration, but also through cutscenes that they really shouldn't have shown, which kind of kills the vibe. For anyone that's new, it kills it. And that's why I'm going to recommend every person that I can. If you are a fan of Dragon Ball Z in any way, or if you want to get involved with Dragon Ball Z in any way, do not touch this game. Watch the anime first. That way you get to experience it properly, all the way through. Now, I know there are different versions of Dragon Ball Z that you can watch. You know, there's the dubbed, or English, Japanese. You've also got the censored version as well, and the non-censored version, depending. I myself grew up with the non-censored version of the game, where, you know, characters were pulling off their arms, and you see blood and all that gravy, and it's awesome, and it's amazing and everything. But yeah, there are versions of Dragon Ball Z that are so heavily censored that you don't see that sort of stuff. I mean, if that's what you want, then cool, I guess, if that's what you want. But watch the proper version. I know it's really long, but just watch it because it's well worth it. Online co-op modes and features and stability. It's all a single player offline experience. You know, there's no... A lot of the older Dragon Ball Z games that have all come out do have a lot of online co-op play itself, or online play. And that's fine. This game didn't need it. It works without it. And I can't really knock any points off of it because they didn't include it. It works the way it is, and I'm really happy with it. The stability of the game. Now, we put 42... hours into the entire game itself. The game never crashed. There are horrendous frame droppage in this game. And it can happen when there's a lot of things going on all at once, or when the game's trying to load it all at once. But holy cow, This game drops frames so badly. And you can see it in a lot of the scenes where the characters are not moving smoothly, or if the animations are all skipping all over the place. It's horrendous. That's something that obviously they're going to have to patch, and they're going to have to fix. Now, I didn't want to spoil this game in any way for me because, I wanted to play out through the review itself for you. But I was informed by quite a lot of people that this game was horrendously broken when it got launched. To the point where NPCs were glitched and bugged, or certain textures wouldn't load in, or certain NPCs were actually not present, but you can talk to them. And there were speech bubbles appearing with no NPC. And I'm sorry, but that's a joke. That's a joke. That really is. We had one NPC not load in, but we backed out of the area and re-backed into the area again, and the NPC then spawned in. But we didn't encounter any of the major problems that I know a lot of people were having, but I have seen the pictures and some of the some GIFs as well, and they're absolutely hilarious. So good job, again, not fine-combing the game, but that's something that, they obviously fixed and patched and got dealt with, and, that I can only judge the content that's in front of me. I can't judge what it was on launch because I didn't play it directly on launch because I was doing something else. Purchase price versus digital and value of content. The digital pricing for this game is 50 quid. Do I feel it's justifiable? No, not at all. Not at all. Yes, the game is really long because obviously the game has to play out through all of the sagas, and I get that. And plus, the game chucks so many fillers at you, you'll end up, biting your fingers off. But I do not feel this game is a £50 digital. That's too much. That's way too much. $39.99. Yes. $34.99. Oh, hell yes. That would have been amazing. But 50 quid for the standard edition, that, in my opinion, is way too expensive. So if you are, interested in picking this up, I would try to get a physical copy of it cheaper if you can, or wait for it to go on sale, but that's just my opinion. Additional notes. Here we go. Story mode, no multiplayer. We already spoke about that. Would have liked... the world map was broken into sections, and I'm sorry, but in a 2020 game, I don't feel that should have been the case. If Grand Theft Auto can have an entire open map, then why couldn't this game have it? Why did you have to split the map up, and then not only that, have so many loading screens as well when you want to go from one area to another? I feel the whole map should have been joined together as one map, and you should have been given the ability to fly around freely wherever you want to go. That would have made it a lot more enjoyable, and also a time saver as well, so the player doesn't get forced to see loading screen after loading screen after loading screen. Now, you could turn around and say, oh, well, Steve, well, hold on. How about when they load in side quests and stuff like that? There is a distance between the NPC and character that they could have done where the NPC is not in field of vision, and they could have loaded that stuff in. That mechanic is used very heavily in tons of games. For a shooting game, for example, you can see textures loading in the closer that you get to certain object. And I've actually played a game where NPCs have changed out of field of vision, and then they change when you get close to them. So they could have done it, in my opinion. They could have had the whole map completely open. And I felt that would have actually made the game far more enjoyable. Fantastic character design and terrain detail. I thought, as I said before, I thought the game looked absolutely fantastic. The collectible showcasing the lore of the old Dragon Ball series, I loved it. I love the fact that you can find photo collectibles around the game, and that itself would show old episodes and old flashbacks from the old Dragon Ball stuff, and I absolutely love that. The narrator's voice acting was on point. It was the voice actor that we're accustomed to from the actual anime series, so I was more than happy to listen to him again. Would have been great to see clips from the anime shows during certain emotional scenes. We've already talked about that. Performance issues during distant NPC. We've already talked about frame droppage. Mini games like catching bubbles, hitting Gregory the cricket were missing. That would have been nice. You know, you had mini games like driving a pointless car, walking in a mech, baseball, yet you didn't give us missions with the story concept, which would have been really nice to run around King Kai's planet trying to capture bubbles or to try to hit Gregory with the mallet. That would have been really, really, really cool. But they didn't include any of that sort of stuff, and that is a missed opportunity there, in my opinion. Conversations in game are not close to what happens in the anime. We've already spoken about that. And I'm not going to reveal what they are because a lot of them are heavy spoilers. But I'll give you one example that really isn't a heavy spoiler. I'm going to actually see if you guys can tell me this. What key phrase did Vegeta say with Nappa when he landed on Earth and scanned Goku's power level? That became probably one of the biggest memes and talked about GIFs and stuff like that. There we go. There we go. Right there. That was missing from the game. They took that out of the game. Even though it's probably one of the biggest, it's the biggest memes of Vegeta. And it wasn't even in the game. And that really annoyed the hell out of me. But that's just one example. No wear and tear during combat. It would have been nice during combat if the more you get pummeled, your clothing gets ripped apart. That would have been nice, especially as it would have contributed to certain scenes where their clothing is actually missing during the fight. But yeah, there's no wear and tear during the game itself. In the coming soon... spoilers. Yeah, we already spoke about that. Generic soldier fighting gets extremely repetitive and very boring. We've spoken about that. Special moves been shown too early in scenes. Oh, yeah. Vegeta, who is known for doing his final flash against Cell, he actually used that final flash ability earlier on in the game when he never knew that ability, which made no sense. He had an ability like it, but he never had Final Flash. And he did Final Flash against an enemy way before Cell. And he did it for the very first time against Cell. So, I don't know. Contradiction much? Game is not open world. Would have been nice if all the continents were all joined together. I've already said that. Censorship was very cheesy in the game. I guess, they made the game for, not really the teen audience because, there was no major blood scenes. There was no body bits being ripped apart. And it would have been nice because when I watched it as a kid, I remember Piccolo's arm getting ripped off. I remember blood, coming, going down the face, going down the eyes and all that lot. And this game is very, very, very heavily censored. Very heavily censored. Even though they curse a little bit. Yeah, it's like cursing, but it's not heavily cursing. But I think they could have just left the censoring in there. And if they took it out because they feel, people are so sensitive, then come on. It's 2020. Come on. Whole game should have been fully open world. No walls, no railing. Yes, I've already talked about that. Everything else I've written down, I've pretty much covered. Yeah, I've pretty much covered. I liked the community board that they did. I liked collecting the emblems. I liked powering their emblems up to give them, I did like that. It got quite boring after a while, but I did like that sort of an idea. Maybe they could have just done that idea just a little bit better. But I did like collecting their tokens. Ultimately, though, I'm just trying to think if I've missed anything from everything that I've done? No, not really. I've pretty much talked about everything that I wanted to highlight in the game itself. Overall, I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm disappointed. I wanted this game to be the key game, as I said, that lures people into watching the animes. And I'm talking all the animes, not just Dragon Ball Z. I'm talking about Dragon Ball, and if people are crazy enough to watch Dragon Ball GT, which was crap, or even Dragon Ball Super, but Bandai Namco and the developers behind the game itself, they kind of fell flat in my opinion. They really did. They didn't stick true to the full story arc correctly, and if they would have done everything that we suggested, or everything that I'm suggesting, they could have made this game far better. Like, really good. But in my opinion, it falls flat quite heavily. It gets very boring very quick. It gets very repetitive very quick. And if you're not going from story mission to story mission to story mission, you're going to get bored. You really are. You're going to get bored, and you're probably not going to want to play the side quest like I am. I don't want to do the medallion quests because I just can't be bothered to fight the same enemies over and over again. The cloning in this game is a joke. It is a joke. But I'm going to talk about what they did well. The game looks absolutely amazing. The game looks phenomenal. It's the best looking Dragon Ball Z game they have ever done, in my opinion. And yes, they do stay true to some of the lore itself, and some of it is accurate to what they did in the anime. There is a bit of emotion in there, but I felt they could have done the emotion far better. They could have done the transformations better. Overall, I'm disappointed. I feel they could have done so much better. But bear in mind, this is all my opinion. There's nothing more. This is just my opinion. Do I feel you should run out and buy this game right now? No. I would wait until it gets discounted. And I would not play it. I would not play it unless you have already watched the anime. In my opinion, it's just not enough. It's not good enough for me. I felt they could have done a lot better. So, with all of that in mind, I'll be honest, the ending of the game bumped it up just by one more point, because I thought they did a good job with the ending. It worked quite well with the soundtrack that they pulled in, and it had the emotion in it as well, and I liked it, With all of that in mind, I am happy giving this game a 6 out of 10. And it would have been 5 if it wasn't for the ending. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot earns a 6 out of 10.